I was just talking to somebody who said, "Oh my gosh, and it's impossible to raise capital right now. It can't be done." I wasn't comfortable enough to tell him that I just raised on a deal where I exceeded my capital raising goal by 50%. So I raised 150% of what I committed to and projected. So I want to talk to you all about today what's going on in today's capital raising environment and give you some tips, tricks, and insights into how to also exceed your capital raising goal. But I'm really excited to welcome you all to another episode of Raising Capital for Real Estate Investing. As you all know by heart now, my name is Amy Silvis. I'm the founder and CEO of Silvis Capital, but I also love to teach people how to raise capital for their deals as well. I do a 8-week course on lead generation, which everyone needs more leads, especially in this environment, and one-on-one coaching for building out your capital raising funnel. But yeah, hey, I want to talk to you all about this environment. There's this mantra in our space right now that capital raising is simply impossible. It's very difficult to do. And I think it's a wild mindset issue that we all have going on right now. And I'm not here to brag or to boast. That's not the purpose here. The purpose is to give you all not only the strategies and tactics, but the mindset to be able to reach your capital raising goals as well. So, I want to talk to you all through this a little bit, but yeah, just excited to have you all back today. I know last week was a coaching episode, which is really, really fun, but I love doing these solo episodes as well. Before we get started, hey, I just started a newsletter that I want you all to be a part of. It's going to have even more tips and tricks for capital raising. So go to the link in the show notes and subscribe for free to my new Raising Capital for Real Estate Investing newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday morning. It is written by me. It's not written by AI, but it's going to have lots of additional information in addition to this podcast that's weekly to help you increase your capital raising capacity. So I'm really, really excited about that. Another thing to celebrate before we get started is I just had another student go through my 8-week LinkedIn Capital Raising Secrets course. And oh my gosh, drum roll, please. He increased in just 8 weeks the number of investor calls he had by 50% and increased the number of investors in his CRM by 45.3%. In 8 weeks. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited for this student. And imagine what you could do if you increase the number of investors in your CRM by almost half and you increase the number of calls that you're having with investors who are interested in raising their hand by 50%. I love it. It is so much fun to hear these results. So really excited for him. Maybe we'll have him on the podcast here shortly, but he knows who he is. Congratulations on all of your hard work and your success in just 8 weeks. Okay, so let's get started here. As I mentioned, I candidly did a little bit of a smaller raise than what I normally do, but I was able to achieve 150% of what I committed to. So let's talk about how that worked, why that worked, how you all can duplicate this as well. This was my first deal that I've done since December of 25. So it's been 9 months, almost 9 months. And things do change over that time period. So what did I observe? As I said, it's been about 6 months since I last raised. But the first thing, and I was part of a team, right? The first thing I observed, and that I want you all to know, you've heard me say this many, many times, but the results that you get for a raise, let's just say in August of 2026, it's based on the activity that you're doing in terms of lead generation and nurturing your investors 6 months ago. So based on February of 2026. And so if you're starting to work on your lead generation in your middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel activities today in August of 2026, you're going to start seeing the results in February of 27. I'm not kidding. So yeah, I saw some other people really scrambling and trying to figure out, where to find investors and how to get people to invest. And look, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not throwing any shade. Like, I'm here to help. I'm here to help you all, to give information and tips and tricks. This isn't a gotcha or I told you so or throwing shade. Truly, truly, truly. But I just really want to ingrain, because it seems that the word isn't getting out as quickly as I'd like it to, that our raises, my raise in particular that I just completed, it was actually completed 6 months ago. I was simply implementing and pulling through the work that I had done 6 months prior in February of 2026. So I think that lead time and kind of that mindset is still evading some people, but I want you all to be empowered and know that the time to alter your strategy is now. Well, no matter who you are, myself included, we all need more leads, right? We all need more investors. I don't care what you think is going on with your funnel. If you're not focusing on doing more lead generation and getting that going, you are selling yourself short and not helping yourself to maximize. Middle of the funnel nurturing, bottom of the funnel with the deal presentation, fine tuning those, honing those. It's imperative that you do those now so that you're set up 6 months from now. So obviously, I've been doing this for a number of years, but knowing that during the raise, in the raise, that's not the time to be finding new investors and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to convert them into investors in this deal. That's just not how that works. And I see people really blood, sweat, and tears trying to hustle during a raise to get that done. And you're just burning yourself out and you're not going to get the results that you think you are. So I don't want that to be you all. So, what is actually working? Again, understanding the levers of each part of the funnel, right? Because another thing we'll talk about later on in this episode is I'm continually seeing people kind of self diagnosing why they're not raising the capital that they want. They're diagnosing the problem incorrectly. And I don't want you all to do that. So we're going to talk through how to properly think through what's going on. And hey, maybe everything is going great in your funnel, but you want to level up and raise even more capital. The same strategy will apply. But understanding fundamentally that the top of your funnel is lead generation, right? So you think of it as this wide funnel. So where are you meeting new people? And, obviously, I teach a course. I think LinkedIn is the best way to do that, but it could be other social media platforms. It could be going on podcasts. It could be, meeting people in person. I'm excited that some people want to do it that way. In my experience, it's a bit slower, right? Because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if they're qualified unless you're kind of trying to get their contact information. They're probably just scheduling a call with you or maybe diving into your CRM without being properly nurtured. So it can be a bit more tricky, but hey, some people have done it and it's great. But that's the top of your funnel. The middle of your funnel is once someone's raised their hand and said, hey, this is really interesting to me. How are you nurturing these people and keeping them warm? What are the tactics and strategies that you're holding? Webinars, you have educational material like ebooks, webinars on demand, meetups. Are you giving newsletters or regular emails in your CRM? They're going out to investors to keep them updated on what's going on and continue them through the warm educational process. And then the bottom of your funnel, of course, is the deal presentation, how you're really executing, getting the word out with the deal and getting folks to understand what you have available, marketing it to them and having them invest alongside you. So that may be obvious, but I really think it's important. Some people listening to this podcast have never really thought of a marketing or sales funnel or understood kind of what's going on at each stage. So as I mentioned, so let's talk about kind of why this raise worked for me at a time when a lot of people, because it's the summer, are vacationing. And let's be honest, there have been quite a number of people who've been burned in the commercial real estate syndication and fund space. So more people are hesitant to invest. The first thing I did is I segmented my list in my investor list or my investor club in my CRM. And I segmented it by the benefits that each person was looking to achieve by investing in real estate. So it's anytime someone joins my system, I want to understand why they're interested in this space. And there's no one right or wrong answer, right? So whether it's through a form, through an automation, through an email conversation, through a one-on-one conversation, I want to understand, do they want tax benefits? Are they looking for passive cash flow? Are they looking for appreciation to grow their wealth? Are they looking to replace their W-2 income? Do they want to just diversify in their retirement account? Whatever that is, I want to know well, like months and months and months in advance before I ever show a deal to that person. Because then when I have a deal, I can highlight and segment the communication and marketing that I have to said investor based on the goals that they told me. And not every deal is going to fit every person, right? But if I have a deal that has a very high projected bonus depreciation in year one, I'm going to tell that to the people that want the tax mitigation strategies. If we start off with a really heavy cash flow, instead of having people wait a year or two before cash flow starts, I'm going to be marketing to those people. So my folks don't get a single email about a deal. I segment folks, and that you can't have those conversations and understand that information, unfortunately, until you can't do that last minute, right? You can't do that during the raise. That's supposed to happen, but before, well before the raise. So that segmentation and aligning, hey, you told me this 4 months ago. You were looking for this. Here's the thing that has this, right? We're not talking folks into investing. We're just saying, you told me you want this. Now I have this for you. Let's talk through how this might fit. So that's a big part of my marketing that you all can use too. As I mentioned, I haven't had a deal in, well, depends on when you want to count the raise starting, et cetera, but 6 to 9 months, right? It's been since December of 25. So how did I keep folks warm over the past 6 to 9 months? Well, we had a lot of continuing education and conversation. So I didn't go dark, but I also didn't pelt them with all sorts of needless, you know, 5-page newsletter updates either. So keeping folks warm, keeping folks informed, incredibly important. Not going dark in between raises because look, one of my friends in this space, they're doing their first deal that they've done in 2 years. And, this isn't 2022 when we're all doing, 6, 7 deals. Well, I didn't, but a lot of people were just doing deals like every other month. So intentionally keeping people warm and keeping them warm in the correct way that isn't salesy, but educational, really important. And all my investors, again, because we had this time, they had about 12 touches with me before they even heard of this deal. So you've heard about me talk that I don't want someone to just see me on LinkedIn and then schedule a call with me. I want people to go on an educational journey about what this space is, how it can benefit them, what are the risks, what are the benefits, what are the things that they should think through when they understand if this is right for them. That takes time. Another reason why scrambling for investors once you have a deal isn't it. And I want you all to plan 6 months ahead of time to have folks go through this journey, to have several touches with you. And one should, be ideally a phone call, right? But just having a phone call and then wondering why people aren't investing when people haven't been properly nurtured, that really came to my advantage as well, even though it's been quite a while since I've had another deal. Talking about the benefits of the deal, not just the features. I say this with the warmest heart because I do this. I used to do this a lot and it's still my instinct. Y'all, we're in this space. We get it. We understand what a 2.3 equity multiple is. We understand what 60% bonus depreciation is. We're marketing to people, to passive investors that don't do this full time. This isn't the world that they live in. So these are all features of the deal. We need to talk about the benefits, right? We need to match and market and communicate and message the benefits to folks. We need to talk to people like they aren't in the industry because they're not. And the more effectively you're able to explain and walk people through, hey, there's a 2.3 equity multiple. What this means for you is, take that phrase. I'm going to say this again. I need you to write it down. What this means for you is, you should be saying that till you're blue in the face about everything. There's 60% year one bonus depreciation. What this means for you is, this should be in your email material. This should be in your investor deck, your presentation deck. This should be in your one-on-one communications, in your live webinar. It should be all over the place. We should really spell out for people what this means to them, how this translates into a benefit. Because if we just talk about features and not benefits, you're going to lose folks. You just are. You've got to hold their hand through all of this and spell it out. 2 other things that I want you all to take away and to implement as well. The next thing is calling out the type of environment that we're in and the scaries that are going on. And I understand kind of the mindset around this. Y'all, there's a lot going on, right? There's what in the World War III is happening with Iran. There are tariffs or not tariffs or tariffs or I don't know, back and forth, increasing unemployment. There have been huge, troubles in the commercial real estate space. Y'all, we don't get investors by hiding from this or trying to put this under the rug. We don't. We have to call it out. And that might feel uncomfortable. And you might say, Amy, well, wait a minute. How is anyone going to invest with me if I acknowledge all of these risks going on? I'm afraid of scaring investors off. They already know. They already know, y'all, because you don't mention the Strait of Hormuz that is or isn't open, isn't going to, you're not telling them anything that they don't know. Here's where the credibility comes, is by you actually calling out the elephant in the room, or in our case, the elephants in the room. Yeah, calling them out and talking about how those elephants fit into our investing strategy. So the Strait of Hormuz may or may not be open. World War III may or may not be going on. The Japanese yen may or may not be collapsing, and the US is intervening by buying more, by buying more yen. All this stuff. I'm not going to get into the weeds. Talk about it with your investors, please. This is a huge hack that I did during this last raise, and it didn't scare investors off. Let me give you the inside track, because they already know. They're already wondering. So if they're already wondering, the two options are they're going to be relying on their own ability to draw conclusions, or better, or even worse, the media, which is going to make them think that everything is going to hell in a handbasket. Or you can intervene and say, hey, this is going on. This is risky. There is risk right now because of these macroeconomic and geopolitical concerns. Here's what we're doing to mitigate that in these deals. Walk people through. So don't hide from it. Acknowledge it. Get in the trenches with your investors. Talk them through what they may be hearing, what you're hearing, what you understand. Acknowledge it. Don't hide from it. And then help people understand why your deal, what steps you all are taking to mitigate those risks. And look, no one's expecting to have a deal with no risk, right? Even putting money in a bank account, in theory, could have risk. So I don't want you all to hide from this. I want you all to be very upfront, address it, and move on. But by ignoring it, we truly are not going to get more investors to invest alongside of us. Your credibility actually goes up by acknowledging what's going on and not hiding from it. So that was a little bit of a Amy rant, but it's huge. It's really important. Even if our investors don't articulate them, right? That's kind of the point. They may not be out and out asking you, but it's in the back of their mind whether they tell you or not. So let's be upfront. Let's address it. And people are more likely to listen to you and deem you credible if you don't hide from it. Okay, I beat that dead horse. The other thing is your investors are putting your PPM, your investor deck, everything through a large language model. Do you know that? They're putting it all through, and they're asking AI what it thinks and what the risks are. And here's the thing. AI doesn't always get stuff right. So your investors may be having conversations with AI that's getting something wrong or doesn't have the full context about your deal. And they may be deciding not to invest because of what Grok, Claude, Gemini, and Chat is telling them. So here's what I want you all to do. I want you all to run your investor deck, your PPM through every large language model that you can and see what risks or concerns that large language model has. Hey, some of the risks may be real and it's just like, hey, these are the risks. This is what's going on. Maybe it'll tell you something that it lacks context. So you need to provide more context or more insight into the deal, in the deck, in the PPM. Well, okay, let me pause. Don't modify your PPM without talking to your lawyer, obviously, right? Your SEC attorney. So don't do that. Obviously, all of this is within the context of working with your SEC attorney. So I just want to make sure you all understand that. But create a frequently asked questions section of your pitch deck, of your offering memorandum, even of your webinar that you do, that addresses the concerns that AI points out. Or, as I said before, provide more context so that AI doesn't get something wrong. Not on my deal, but I saw someone, the AI didn't fully understand the underwriting. It missed a few nuances and so spit out like, "Hey man, this deal is not good. Be very, very careful." And AI was wrong because it didn't have the full context. The other thing is call out that elephant in the room too with your investors of, "Hey, it makes total sense that you guys are running this through AI. If you see something that it's pointing out to you, let's do some, I guess, user beware, not buyer beware." You guys hear what I'm saying? Just let your investors know that it doesn't always get it right and to bring it to your attention just to make sure that there isn't some context that AI is missing. I think most people understand that AI doesn't get everything right, but eek, we all hear of the people that think that it's basically on God mode and knows everything, and you'd hate to lose investors because of that. So AI has entered the chat. AI is being used, and so getting in front of it, running your information through it to see what its concerns are. And some of them may be real, right? You can't, again, we're not mitigating all risk, but being proactive about what you put in your material so the AI isn't slipping up or misinterpreting something can be incredibly, incredibly powerful. So those are my tips for that worked for me and this deal to help you. Now, I really want to talk about how to diagnose the issue that you're having in your capital raising business. This is going to be really, really brief. We'll probably do another episode about this shortly and dive deeper. But I was having a conversation with a gentleman who was saying he fell short on a raise. And it was really interesting as I was kind of talking through and trying to help him diagnose what was going on. There were a few things. And look, the context is a lot of us went through guru programs. They taught us how to underwrite and acquire deals. They didn't teach us how to capital raise. Maybe they said talk to your network. Maybe they said set up a CRM. But y'all, you need the same kind of education and coaching to capital raise as you did to underwrite a deal. It's not just kind of some like spare workshop for a half hour and then all of a sudden you can capital raise, as I'm sure you've noticed. So this person basically told me that, they worked with two people that had already taught them how to raise capital. One was Grant Cardone, which I don't know if Grant does, but this person was like, he was useless. And the other was someone that helped them set up systems, processes, pitch decks. And this person said, I understand investment psychology. I've got my CRM. I've got my investor relations systems. And what I wanted to help them understand was a lot of those are middle of the funnel, kind of admin things. We can have the best understanding of investor psychology. We can have the best CRM. We can have a YouTube channel, a newsletter, free webinars up the wazoo. But if we're not putting our efforts in a place where we can do lead generation effectively, if we're spreading ourselves out too thin, we're going to run into a lot of problems. So the systems and processes are fantastic. Everyone needs those for a successful capital raising company. Systems and processes are very often middle and bottom of the funnel activities. Again, great to have, but you can't nurture your way into having more investors. You need someone to nurture. So if you're not focusing on top of the funnel activities to get new investors, you're going to be nurturing hardly anyone and spinning your reels and getting really frustrated as to why you can't raise capital. So systems and processes are very different than lead generation, than finding investors. Both are necessary, but this conversation just really made me want to make sure you all were crystal clear on the different parts and levers of a capital raising business. All are important, but if you're not generating leads, which we all need to be doing more, you don't have enough leads. I promise you. I don't, you don't, no one does. We all need more, but don't be confused or misled by someone who coaches you to do investor relations and pitch decks and investor psychology, because if you have no one to apply that to, you're going to struggle. I also want you all to be able to think through and diagnose throwing spaghetti at a wall. And this is going to help you diagnose why you're not raising enough capital as well. It is very hard to do multiple lead generation strategies well, especially when you don't have years and years and years of capital raising experience. If you're in the fear zone, if you're in pipeline purgatory, even if you're in the bottleneck breakpoint, right? That's the first, the second, the third phase. The temptation is to throw spaghetti at the wall and wonder why it's not working. I don't care how powerful you are, how smart you are, how hard you're working. you're not doing all of those things well. A person told me that they have weekly webinars, newsletters, YouTube channels, 5 different LinkedIn accounts, and they're not able to raise capital. It's so hard to do all those things well. I suspect a lot of that involves having a VA involved, and they're not going to do things as well as you are too. You can just focus on one channel, build that out, get that going really well, and make sure that's effective before you start really scattering yourself around different tactics and sources of lead generation. I get the idea, right? I mean, it's probably really obvious to you too that we want as many investors as possible. And oh my gosh, nothing is working. I'm going to keep trying and throwing spaghetti against this wall and then that wall and then that wall. You're going to burn yourself out. You're not going to be very effective at any, and you're going to be left wondering why you're not raising capital. So you don't need to spread yourself so thin. You don't need to burn yourself out. Choose a channel, choose a way to raise capital, get really good at it. Again, like I said, it takes a while. It takes a good 3 to 6 months for something to work, but hopefully that helps you understand that you don't have to do. It reminds me of, if you guys watch The Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain who's just pulling all these levers like frantically trying to get something to work. None of them are going to work because you're doing too many things. So pick a lane, y'all, get really, really good at it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Follow people, get information and coaching from people who have done what you already want to do. Because if you're trying to do it on your own, it's going to take a lot longer. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. So steps you can take to make sure that your next capital raise is going well. Talk segment your messaging to people, keep people warm in between deals, make sure you've got those 12 touches, talk about benefits, not just features, acknowledge the macroeconomic and geopolitical elephant in the room, run deals through AI to see what it's telling your investors about your opportunity, and make sure you understand the difference between lead generation and not spreading yourself too thin, and systems and processes, because your systems and processes are not going to overcome not having enough leads. This is so much fun. What a great episode. Subscribe to my newsletter. I'm going to give you even more value and insights and ways you can increase your capital raising capacity. The link is in the show notes. Great to see you all. I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now, everyone.